Welcome to Ascension of the Chessmen, diving into the esoteric, occult, spiritual, and conspiratorial aspects of life, focused on solutions to the problems we face in our everyday lives. Let us ascend above all differences. Let us be the light in darkness, a breath of fresh air to those who can hardly breathe, and together awaken into greatness. This is Ascension of the Chessmen with your host, Andre Mitty.
Welcome to the Ascension of the Chessmen podcast. I'm your host, Andre Mitty. With me today is my lovely co-host, Jordan. Today's guest is a healer, naturopathic doctor, author, creator of the Vis Dialogue, healing technique, and podcast host. Ladies and gentlemen, hobbits and fairies, give a warm welcome to Dr. Moshe Daniel Block.
Hey, thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it. And the Vis Dialogue has evolved into an app that I'm also sharing with the world. It's an extension of myself so that I could reach more people with the Vis Dialogue. It helps people to go deeper into their subconscious to understand the underlying false beliefs that they've adopted that are underlying their suffering. So that's called Questions Heal. And it's an extension of the Vis Dialogue. So I wanted to put that out there. We could talk about that a little bit
Very
if you
cool.
like.
Yeah.
When you're ready, sure.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Doctor, for those who aren't familiar, can you please explain what it is that you do, and I guess what woke you up to realizing maybe there's more to this life than you were originally taught or thought?
Oh, great question. So yeah, I've been practicing naturopathic medicine since 2000, so 26 years. Um, my my history is one of many injuries and lots of illness as a kid. I was always getting sick and always getting injured, and I didn't like it. I mean, it sidelined me from a lot of the sports and hanging out with friends that I would like to do. And I mean, some of it is normal things that kids get, like pneumonia or ear infections or strep throat or stuff like that. But then I also had pretty severe form of Epstein-Barr, like mono. And then I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis when basically 30 years ago. And myasthenia gravis, according to the conventional medical model, is progressive, incurable, and potentially fatal. And people still do die from it actually when they don't know how to look within to understand what the body is showing them, what the symptoms are expressing. So what called me towards looking deeper was my own journey of suffering, unfortunately, or fortunately, you could say. And I learned a lot. My mom was an amazing mom. She, even in the 70s, it wasn't like in the 70s, you know, homeopathy wasn't very widespread. Naturopathic medicine was barely present.
Mm.
And so she would jump on the train with me and we'd go to like Toronto from Montreal and like a 5 hour train ride to see a homeopath for asthma. So there was like that was really cool. And when I was young, I started to feel chi in my body and I could see things. I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
So I thought I was like a wizard because I like Dungeons and Dragons. Magician. Like I had magic and I would try
Right.
to make objects flow. And they wouldn't flow, but the chi would increase it. I'd feel my organs pulsing and I would
Yeah.
see the chi. And I could even have put my hands around people and make them feel the energy that was flying out of my hands.
Wow.
So I always had something like some kind of awareness that there's more than just the material world.
Yeah.
And then through different discoveries, like I would say one of the biggest discoveries was when I was 15 and I read Barbara Brennan's Hands of Light.
Mm.
And that answered so many of my questions because I didn't know what it was that I was feeling or what I was seeing. There was no precedent for that. There's nobody talking about that.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I also was raised Jewish, and I think in the Jewish faith there's a lot of conventional stuff and very, between the lines of conservative, but there's also invitations to look to the deeper questions around God and creation and who are we. And so that was also a really nice path to be put on. Not without its imbalances for sure, but still with a nice invitation there to look deeper. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I know like pre-show we were talking like we wanted to touch on, just the tabooness of talking about Israel. I mean, it's such a trigger word these days. Can you
Yeah.
kind of go into what it was like growing up Jewish and like how you see yourself today, like growing up that way and the people close to you still involved to such a degree and, just the complexities of the path of being a Jewish man.
Yeah, there's a lot of complexities. There's so many nuances. Growing up was lovely. I grew up in a multicultural place. I went to a high school with basically every possible manifestation of different races and
Right.
religions, and it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Once in a while it would get made fun of, but usually with guys, it's par for the course.
Right.
Guys tease each other,
Yeah. Shit
and
talk
it's
all
and
day.
it's fine. You gotta be able to flow with that, or you're gonna
Yeah.
be in trouble. You get picked on
100%.
even more.
Yeah.
Um, and then I mean, I did get into a few fights. Like somebody called one of the guys on my team Morgenstein a dirty Jew, and I ended up getting suspended
Damn.
2 games for cross-checking the guy. But I mean, just but little minor blips like that, like no big deal, no big deal. What we're seeing today is a rise of literal rise of anti-Semitism
Yeah.
that is it's kind of cyclical.
Mm.
In the Torah, there's a passage that God says to Moses, expounded in the ears of Joshua, will completely remove the memory of Amalek from generation to generation.
Mm.
And then this is right when Amalek attacks, when they're in Rephidim, the Jews are in Rephidim, they have this war with Amalek.
Mm-hmm.
And Amalek is like the spiritual people of the spiritual enemy of the Jewish people, we could say. And then what actually goes down is that after God says this, is that Israel will have war from generation to generation if there's a hand against the throne of Yah.
Mm.
Now, that's such an interesting passage because the way I interpret that is twofold. First of all, Amalek in Kabbalah, the gematria, the numerical value of the word, it's the same as the word safek in
Mm.
Hebrew, which means doubt.
Mm.
And the Jewish people are busy doubting God. So there's all these miracles that happen. They've just been brought out of Egypt. They see the pillar of fire and the parting of the seas and all the plagues, and they see all this stuff, and then they're doubting again. Like, God, why did you bring us, or they say to Moses, why did you bring us out into the desert just to make us die of thirst? It's like,
Right.
come
Right.
on, people. Like, didn't you see all the miracles? So they're doubting God, and then Amalek attacks. So Jews, even religious Jews, accept this and recognize that Amalek is a reflection of the Jewish people's doubt in God. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there if there is a hand against the throne of Yah. Now, that could be interpreted in multiple ways, but I actually interpret that as being a Jewish hand, the hand of the
Mm.
Jewish people against the throne of Yah. And that could be a form of doubt.
Mm.
It could also be one of the things that I do perceive about Jews, and this is something that I really highlight in my series, Israel's Unfinished Covenant, which is a
Mm-hmm.
four-part video series that I would love to encourage you to check out. And we could, if you ever want, we could have another talk specifically about that. But I'm definitely going to
Definitely.
feature it. The primary issue, I call it the primary problem, is that through Israel's generations, thousands of years of existence, a strong development of a belief system has occurred, which is that the world is against us.
Mm.
And underneath the canopy of the world is against us is that we are therefore separated from the world.
Mm.
It's us against the nations or versus the nations or separate from the nations. And so, in my understanding, one of the, like if a business has a mission statement. Well, one of the mission statements of the Jews, which I don't think is arguable, is tikkun olam, which means healing the world,
Mm.
and to be a light unto the nations. Now, if you combine those two, it's really to be amongst the nations, sort of like an extension of to be in this world, in the world, to be with the nations. And this separation from the nations, I think, is one of the elements. It creates fear and it creates this projection on the world. The world is against us, and the Jewish people have a very strong mental force which keeps perpetuating this and is very much instrumental in this idea that if there's a hand against the throne of Yah, there will be war with Amalek from generation to generation. So,
Mm.
what I'm saying here is that the very belief system itself could manifest as this spiritual enemy manifesting in the world in multiple ways
Mm.
to mirror to the Jewish people that very belief.
The egregore of it.
Yeah.
What was that?
The egregore or like collective belief,
Yes,
that
yes,
core
very
belief.
good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Yeah, that's a great word. Thank you.
Oh.
And I do feel like the reason why I call the video series Israel's Unfinished Covenant is because I do believe it's an unfinished covenant.
Mm.
And we did talk about we were going to talk a little bit about the evolution of humanity towards the singularity of the most important event in Earth's history and the purpose of creation, which is the incarnation of the Christ into Jesus of Nazareth. Like that moment of incarnation is the reason why all the thousands of years in on this planet was basically created for. And then at that moment, what happened with the Jewish people is also in a very important telling. So these are all the nuances of what it means to be Jewish. And um, so I can just go over that with you and we could discuss it a little bit if you like.
Yes, please.
So yeah, sure, thank you. So we acknowledge like many cosmologies, and even like a child could sit and meditate on the question like, what what is God, and where did God come from, and what created God?
Right.
That's one of my favorite questions that my kids have asked me. Okay, so God was, and always will be, but then what created that? It's such a profound question that it's worth meditating on. It's like a
Mm.
form of a Zen koan. Like the idea of if a
Yeah.
tree falls in the forest and there's no one there, does it make a sound?
Right.
So that's those two are very similar
Concepts.
koans. They're
Yeah,
Zen koans. Yeah.
for sure.
So that being that is, was, and will always be cannot not be. It is. And it's so rich. You could really sink your teeth in that for a long time.
Yeah.
But that being the being was all that is at the time, if we could use those words. There are limitations to the language because time doesn't exist in that being. It
Mm.
always is. It always is.
Right.
If you strip everything down, it's like if you have a fire, what you're left with is potassium carbonate,
Mm.
and some other elements that don't burn in the fire. Well, if we burn everything in creation, we're left with
Mm.
pure beingness. And that beingness is intelligent unto itself. And it recognizes this awareness that, hey, I'm all that is, and there's
Mm.
nothing except for me. And maybe if I create something and evolve humanity, or sorry, not humanity at that point, and evolve my creation further, I can have the experience of myself that I'm lacking by not having anything with which to compare myself.
Mm.
It's a simple principle, right? It's like being like
Right.
a frog in a pot. You don't know what you're feeling. If you get out of that, let's say a frog in a pot, and you go into ice cold water, and then you go back and then you go, oh, dude,
You have to have something to compare it to.
Exactly, exactly. So God, in my understanding, this beingness recognized the need to create a comparison. But the
Mm,
problem with that is
mhm.
that God is all that it is. There's
Right,
nothing else.
right.
So how do you create that comparison? This is what I really emphasize in my talk at Elementals Gathering.
Yeah,
You can't. You cannot
right.
create something that is outside of the oneness. You
Mm,
can't,
mm.
except within the idea of giving rise to illusion,
Yes.
right? Because illusion fundamentally doesn't exist,
Mm,
but we can give it power. We
yes.
can believe it exists.
Right.
We can identify with it. And so that was the beginning of the creation of the mirror of reality for God's oneness.
Mm,
And through humanity, this mirror has been given the task to become created in full earnest so that the human being can experience itself as separate from God, so that that space of creating something that God is not could come to be.
yes.
But
Something
now we're
separate.
still building on the principle of illusion because that separation is always an illusion.
Yeah.
But in order for it to be created, in order for it to have the teeth that is required for it to fulfill purpose, there's evolution through humanity that had to occur. So Steiner talks about the different epochs of
Mm,
people, like the Lemurian venture, the Atlantean venture, ancient India with the rishis, ancient Persia, and ancient Egypt, whereby the peoples of those epochs maintained a dreamlike connection with the divine. So even though humanity was created, and let's say we say Adam was the first human being, there was still this like, you know, staying in the womb of the creator and dreaming one with the creator. There wasn't this distinction. So the first person, the first human that was granted or perhaps grew out of the necessity was Abraham. And he had an intellect that was capable of reasoning through a sense of logic and a sense of looking at the world with what we call critical thinking, left brain logic, and the intellect. And it was very well developed in Abraham. So he could look at the reality and say, ah, that's God. And here I am. God is speaking to me. So thus began a wedge in humanity away from this soup
yeah.
of people living in the collective, and
Right.
this people that began with Abraham having a wedge and a separation from that soup, so that the individuality could be grow within the people,
Mm-hmm.
so that the desire for God to have a mirror of God's existence could grow through individuality and separation.
Mm,
So right there, when we talk about it, especially in our modern awareness, you say, separation, individuality. I mean, there's a problem there.
right.
So for me, the chosen people in this regard is a people that chose to wedge out individuality and carve out separation.
Mm,
That's actually a God-given task, but it's actually kind of going against God.
literally. Yeah.
It's literally going against God. And this is what people don't understand about the Jewish people. This is what they carry and continue to carry, is a God-given task which goes against God. It's so weird. It's so
It's such a
weird. So
paradox.
it's a weird paradox. So when people perceive the Jewish people and they just look at this oppositional nature,
Mm-hmm.
then they go, "Oh, Jews are bad. Jews are against God. Jews are anti-Christ."
Mm,
So let's go a little bit into it because the
Yeah.
chapter's not finished yet about the Jewish people. There was a great in Persia, the Zoroastrians, like their leader, their headmaster was Zoroaster. And he was an almost embodiment of the solar being of the Christ. But he didn't have the strength, let's say, of body or mind or both to fully incarnate the Christ being. He recognized it, he understood it, he taught it, but the full embodiment did not occur. What it took was, and the Bible speaks about the 42 generations from Abraham to Jesus of Nazareth in order to forge out the strength of character, of mind, and body through slavery, through war, through antagonism with the world. And the world isn't easy on the Jews, right? They throw Jews curveballs all the time and trying to kill the Jews all the time. So Jews have had to become very strong and strengthened, which is also became part of their problem at the time of Jesus of Nazareth. So at the time of Jesus of Nazareth, when finally the body is prepared in its full depth of separation,
Mm.
as a full reflection of the spiritual worlds of the divine.
Yeah.
So I talked about this a little bit in the symbol of the aleph, of the yin yang, of the opposite. So here's the mirror, finally rooted deeply enough in the physical, such that the physical could bear the full glory of God in the flesh, in Jesus of Nazareth for the first time in creation. All of creation on all the hierarchical levels of the angels and the seraphim and the cherubim, all of them, just full resonance of joy and celebration in that moment in time.
Mm.
So that was fulfillment. Way to go, Jews. You fulfilled the body principle. And here comes the Christ. Hallelujah. End of story. Not quite yet, folks. We're not quite there yet. So in the
Still
only
got work to
planet of
do.
choice, what's that?
We still got work to do.
Yeah, we definitely still have work to do. And what I understand is the very gift that the Jews brought in allowing for the incarnation in the body of Jesus of Nazareth is the very thing that they became tenacious and stuck to,
Mm.
is they carved out individuality.
Yeah.
They carved out strength of mind in the study of Torah, in the intellect.
Yeah.
And they also created this armoring against the rest of the world. The event of Jesus of Nazareth is not just for Christian people and it's not just for Jewish people. It's for the whole world.
Mm.
Christ is for the whole world and for all of creation, actually.
Yes.
Like what we're doing here on earth is not just for earth either. It's for actually for all of the higher heavens to have this glory for God to have experience of itself.
Yeah.
Right? We're back to the beginning there.
Yeah.
So humanity must evolve to this unification factor, but the Jews are still holding us and them
Mm.
because they keep seeing it, and in seeing it, it manifests against them as Amalek from generation to generation.
Mm.
And as Amalek manifests from generation to generation, the Jews then confirm, the world is against us. We must strengthen ourselves. We must defend ourselves. We must survive.
Mm.
And that alone is kind of miraculous that the Jews have survived all this time.
Right.
But the field there of the people that have so strengthened their will and their minds and the body, there's a strong body there too, is so strong in the separation of the nation's mentality and the world is against us that it holds that field very strongly in the world.
Yeah.
So my understanding now is that if the Jewish people as a people lay that down And I mean, in brackets, we're going to talk about the acceptance of Christ, because I mean, that if that alone would do it. But
Right.
if they laid down this separation mentality, I think the world would have an age of peace.
100%. Yeah.
But there is a
That's a good
dance
point.
in both directions. Like
Yes.
so there is this karma of the Jews, which I mentioned, but then there's also the world that is taking up that mantle.
Hmm.
Let's say,
Mirroring it back.
what, sorry?
Mirroring it back. Like,
Yes. Oh, that's right. Mirroring it back, carrying it forth.
yeah.
Like, let's say there's a person who has been abused and they have this mentality of like, I'm abused.
Hmm.
It doesn't obligate anybody to become the abuser.
Mm.
That's still the karma of the person who becomes the abuser, of that person who believes they are abused.
Mm.
So it is a two-way street between the world and between the Jewish people. And right now we do see a lot of this Amalek energy coming in through regular people,
Right.
echo chambers,
Right.
podcasters, influencers, who are taking a lot of the propaganda of Israel's enemies, who would like to see the Jewish people destroyed, or at least kept hounded.
Mm.
If those people that enjoy separation and they enjoy us versus them and divide and conquer so that they could control the world, they know they're smart that if they keep the Jews on their heels and with their shields up and spear out against the world like the world is against us, then that radiates to the rest of the world and
Yes.
manifests globally.
Yes.
They know that. They know that.
Because
Yeah.
if you create separation just in that dialogue, like it just echoes out into everything else. So it just justifies separation anywhere else in society or the world, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. And like what you're not wanting to happen happens by default, you know? Like that type of
Yes.
thing.
Yes, exactly. You could also consider perhaps the age of the survival of the people is significant,
Yeah.
and the Torah is the foundation of Christianity and Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that does like radiate. Also, like our legal system is based on Mosaic law.
Right.
So it like this goes way back in time. So if that foundation can move into the Christ consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
then the world will move. I think, I don't know if it'll be overnight, but maybe, but very quickly, I think the world would move into what we're kind of ready for, but there's still, the strong tension underneath the
Yeah.
surface.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and it's such a paradox too, because like everyday people, like without even knowing, are you Muslim, are you Jewish, are you Christian, like are you Buddhist, like they would get along, like just on common ground of being human. But it's like you bring the politics into the mix, and it's like there the separations, manifest themselves, and all of a sudden the humanness goes away, and the spirit within that humanness of the all oneness, like the unified force that goes beyond all, like it just rears its ugly head. And I think if we can just see past that and see that there's always a bridge forward between all groups, all titles, all of that stuff, that there's a common link underneath it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll sing our differences and appreciate our diversities, but the
Yeah.
Christ is the unified field
Right.
that is central.
Right.
So, like when we talk about at the elementals gathering, quite a few speakers were speaking about this center point, this balance,
Yeah.
and it's a fulcrum.
Mm.
What is central is, just like when you say that, even just linguistically, what is central to something is what is all important about it.
Mm.
The Christ is central, literally in creation of being the balance of the opposites. The astral world is made up of the father and the mother, or these poles, the polarity of
Yeah.
existence,
Yeah.
night and day, sun and moon, yin and yang. The
Right.
Christ is where they're married. It's the center.
Mm.
And so it's central to humanity's evolution. We're all meant to. coming to the split is part of the, this evolution of God, where we can learn who we are by seeing the opposite. So the split
Yes.
is like rending the oneness into opposites.
Mm.
But then the Christ brings it back together, and in that marriage of the Christ, which is God in flesh, that's us too, by the way,
Yeah.
God in flesh. We realize we are that. I
Right.
am that I am.
Yes.
Um, as the beingness, the undefined nature of Creator lives in us,
It's
and we
like that.
never we
It's
never
like,
were not that.
right. It's like that continual process of forgetting and remembering. You know, it's just
Yeah,
a never-ending cycle
yeah,
until it
but there
comes full
comes
circle. Yeah.
until it comes for a full circle, because we come in it a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then we come out, and then we forget, and then we come back in, and yeah, exactly. So it's this cycle that's going on. And so I would say people that are very staunchly anti-Israel,
Hmm.
they're making some good points, right? Because I think the primary problem is a real thing, where Israel is its existence is like the world is against us, we have to defend ourselves. That's the problem. That's Israel's problem. And in
Hmm.
so doing, they do some things that, for example, Israel's influence in America. I think that's a real thing. I don't think it's that big a deal, to be honest,
Hmm.
as what people make it out to be. But I think, making APAC a foreign entity would be a good gesture of goodwill for the Jewish Israel lobby.
Hmm.
And I do think that you know Israel's influence in order to protect itself is understandable. It's like the America First model. Well,
Right.
it's Israel does Israel first too. And so that's fine, because all countries do that. But
Hmm.
for some reason, it's just not okay for Israel, because I think the world does judge Israel with a different lens than it judges itself,
Right.
and it judges all the other nations. It's okay for nations to be nation first, but it's not okay for Israel, because Israel shouldn't be nation first.
Hmm.
And I don't think people realize that they're not putting their finger on that. So there's some rub there with Israel that they feel and they sense and they know. So they criticize Israel very harshly along these lines. But the real and true and honest criticism of Israel is, hey, you're supposed to be here for the world, and you're just protecting yourself from the world. And that's a problem. The other stuff is kind of like taking a bunch of propaganda,
Right.
some truth, some half truth, taking and a lot of lies, a lot of propaganda against Israel, and just running with that, and just like,
Right.
waving the flag against Israel. And there's a lot more love in the way that I just expressed it. Hey, hey,
100%.
Israel, we want you as part of the nation. Stop defend. Okay, we'll lay down the sword. You lay down the sword, that kind of a thing. Let's bring peace. Let's end the division. That's the talk that should be happening now. And that's something that I think the Jewish people could absorb, rather than you're doing this and you're that. Because then they go, there you are, world against us. Ha ha. So that
Right.
just feeds this
Yes.
seemingly perpetual problem of the world being against Israel.
Right. And I definitely feel like they're being set up as a scapegoat, like obviously like so blatant. And
Yeah.
also like it's all over stolen land, and like we seem to forget America was taken the same way, and what's become the United States from the indigenous native people that were here before. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a whole different story in the Middle East, and like it makes sense to have a relationship with, a familiar people over in the Middle East with all the business deals and the public interest we have as nation states. But like, I think it really comes down to empire and authoritarianism, and that side of it is where people like get riled up about and project that onto the people of said countries or beliefs, religions.
Yeah.
Has
Yeah,
that
that's good.
resonated at all?
Yeah, it does. One thing also that what you're saying prompts me to address is the history of Israel is, I think, largely misunderstood, and a
Yeah.
lot of false propaganda has been perpetrated by Muslim extremism,
Mm.
the and also by the British.
Yeah.
I want to introduce the work of what I think is some of the most cohesive, clear-minded, and um, full-bodied teachings through the Promethean action, the people of Promethean action. I want to
Mm.
introduce that to you guys if you haven't heard of them. It's just like these very like down-to-earth elderly people. They're like most of them are older people who have just been studying politics and science their whole lives, and they're painting a picture which is very hopeful, hope inspiring. And I mean, they don't let the Israel off the hook entirely, but they say that Israel is not nearly as responsible for the global happenings as what it's accused to be,
Mhm.
and that the British, and Topher also added an interesting thing that I'm considering as well, because the Promethean action doesn't go into it, but the Swiss, like the Swiss banking and
Mhm.
neutrality, like they were neutral in the war, so nobody touched. It's kind of a weird situation if you really look at it. But anyway, the British occupied the land of Israel, and 100 years ago, before 1948, Israel was this barren, flea-infested, malarial kind of land, desert that nobody really was inhabiting, just very uninhabited. So
Mm.
the idea of stolen land, first of all, is false.
Mm.
Second of all, when Jews started to come back to the land, with the kibbutz and the effort of like this is a very socialist kind of model,
Mhm.
but through a socialist model. I'm not embracing socialism, by the way, but in
Mhm.
in the case of the dawn of Israel, it was instrumental in the Jews transforming the land into fertile soil and making it the most like one of the most beautiful lands in the world.
Mm.
And then it became an object of beauty. And then then people started to come in greater numbers. And
Mhm.
also with the Jews being there, people came from other countries, like Muslim people, Arab people came from other countries in order to work the land as well. And so the idea of a Palestinian people has really been falsified.
Mm.
And there is a people now, Palestinian people, and for that we must have compassion for them. But historically, the history of Israel is very, very befuddled by half truths
Mm.
and inconsistencies and stuff like that. And I don't like to dwell too much in this topic
Right.
because it can get aromatic very quickly. It
Yeah.
can get defending one person's position, one people's position seems to deny the other person's position. Like I don't want to deny Palestinian suffering. I don't want to deny Palestinian rights or anything along those lines, but I do hear like historically unfactual comments all the time about Israel.
Mhm.
One of them is that the Rothschilds were involved in the creation of Israel. Yeah, it's true. They were a very, very wealthy family, identify as Jewish, interested in helping the development of the Israel. Maybe from a business perspective, wanted to get their hands in there.
Mhm.
Sure. But the existence of Israel and the creation of Israel in this modern age does fulfill prophecy, it does fulfill purpose, it does fulfill the wishes of the Jewish people over thousands of years wanting to return to the land. And after the Holocaust, after the Second World War, whether you think 6 million is a falsified number,
Mhm.
there was obviously a lot of suffering that occurred, and
100%.
Jews were rounded up in trains and carted off to concentration camps where they died in en masse.
Mhm.
Whether you believe that the gas chambers were the means by which that happened, or it was disease because they were given horrible living situations and put into these little camps or little shtetls, like little cities, it's undeniable that there was a lot of suffering that occurred. And the idea of having a homeland where the Jews can call them their own and protect themselves, I think is sensible. It
Right.
makes sense.
Right.
But those that would deny Israel will try to deny all those points. It's interesting that, Israel came after the Second World War, after the Holocaust, and then there's stories that try to reinvent the Holocaust. So, well, it never really happened. It's
Mm-hmm.
all falsified. The numbers are all falsified. So that to me is part of the heap
Mm-hmm.
of the things that are stacked against Israel, which is false.
Right.
You know?
The truth is always somewhere in the middle, it seems.
I
And
think
this is a
so.
good
I think so
example of it.
too.
Yeah.
I think so too. I don't know that I'm ready to say, those numbers are exaggerated, but I've looked into it. I consider it. I'm open-minded about it. I think it's possible. But I
Mm-hmm.
know that there are stories that can't
Right.
be denied. We have firsthand accounts of
Right.
survivors. We know there was one. If you do you remember the Montel Williams show? Do you ever
Mm-hmm.
remember
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh yeah.
So he's a really cool black guy. He's got this show, and he had Jews from the Holocaust survivor camp on his
Mm-hmm.
show, and then even Jews, modern Jews that deny the Holocaust or that are revisionists. So they had this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the person, like the survivors, said that, well, I was part of this city, this I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's in the 40,000s. There was something like 47,000 people that lived at the beginning of the Second World War, Jews. It was all Jewish. They're,
Mm-hmm.
a small little village somewhere in Europe. And at the end of the war, there was like 100 people left alive
Wow.
in that village.
Wow.
So 40,000, 40 plus thousand people died. So were
Decimated.
they killed in a gas chamber or a fire? No,
Does it
but
really
they all
matter? Shoot.
They all died
Yeah,
because they were
exactly.
subjected to horrible conditions.
Right.
So, like the whole revisionist thing that about the Holocaust, to me, I think is, okay, well, if you really, as from a historical perspective, you want to get very precise about what actually happened, sure. But to deny the whole thing is a mistake. It's a
Mm-hmm.
gross mistake.
Right.
Gross.
Right.
I mean that in the big way, and I mean it in the ugly. It's ugly. It's an
Yeah,
ugly thing to
it's an ugly
do.
thing. Yeah. And it
And
feels ugly doing it, and to
yeah,
like neglect someone's suffering or say, no, your suffering isn't suffering is like
yeah,
a great sin to yourself and the other that you're projecting that onto. I would agree completely.
absolutely, absolutely. And so you get comedians and other people that point out Israel has like a knee-jerk reaction to anti-Semitism, which I think is correct.
Hmm.
I think that there are some things that are not anti-Semitism, which Jews are overly reactive to because they have this hairpin trigger of a sensitivity of the primary problem of defense in the world is against us. So like, oh,
Right,
that was
right, right,
anti-Semitism. Whoa,
right,
you just did it. You just did. You're against us.
right.
There. So that's the primary problem, which is still at play. But then at the same time, there's a crying wolf situation that goes on in both directions, so that the world says, "Oh, you're just belly aching about anti-Semitism." There's no anti-Semitism going on. Meanwhile, there's a horrible level of anti-Semitism
Oh
that's
yeah.
actually going on
Oh yeah.
that Jews feel all the time, and Israel is basically the center of multiple fronts against it, whether it's media related, political,
Hmm.
global hatred, forgive the word global, then, but also literally military, like war fronts. Like after October 7th, after the attack, there was something like Israel is fighting on 9 different fronts,
Hmm.
like against Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian, like the Israeli Arabs were
Hmm.
attacking Jews all over the place. The Houthis in the south, like just unfathomable amount of enmity going on, and the Jews are trying to survive for holding on for dear life and just trying to survive. It's a small nation. So
Mm,
these are some of the messages that I have to bring, and I'd like people to consider that have this
yeah,
staunchly anti-Israel view.
yeah,
I hope that my view can mitigate by, being Jewish and recognizing what the errors are there,
yeah,
and not call let's it's okay, let's criticize what errors are there. Let's
yeah,
not call everything anti-Semitism, but then let's also ideally be a little bit more balanced towards the Jews and not have
yeah,
this very one-sided view. Very one-sided view
yes.
is polarizing and just perpetuates the war. It really does.
Right. And it ends the conversation the minute people agree. And I think it was like Yassine Bey, he goes by Most Def. He said that the measure of a civilized civilization is not how well they can agree with one another, but how civilized can they be when they disagree. And it's so true, man. Like
So true.
this
Beautiful.
conversation is so refreshing for that sentiment in the world right now, and I think it needs to be broadcasted out. Like you can come at things from different angles or like have preconceived notions that can be worked out just in a conversation and like not turning your back the minute you disagree or like you think you already know it all or you know the history when you haven't walked a mile in their shoes. And I think that that's really what it boils down to is like, can you empathize with a life you didn't grow up in, you know, and a people that you didn't grow up around or like that's not your culture. So you take it as like an attack on your own culture or your belief systems that were ingrained in you growing up, you know. And I
Yeah.
think we can all benefit from our individuality in that way and like see the commonalities, but not like this hive mind that, you know, we're all the same, but like our uniqueness is what makes us great and able to have these great conversations.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. The whole hive mind thing, that's still very present. And
Yeah.
it's even present in like, for example, our communities, our beautiful communities that are budding off of, or I should say, away from the conventional mindedness of like living in the box of humanity, where
Yeah.
it's still stuck to the big pharma and, let's say, globe earth model, or
Right.
these things. So even when we bud off, we can get into a herd mentality
Yeah. Echo
and
chambers.
echo chambers. Exactly. And sometimes, this is a phenomenon that's been studied very often by psychologists, is that you might laugh at a joke because other people are laughing, but you don't even know what it means.
Mm, mm,
There's this study that was done where they studied baboons, I think it was, and they had a ladder with a banana up at the top of the ladder hanging from the roof. And when a baboon would take the bananas, the whole room would get doused in ice cold water.
mm,
And so one baboon went up and grabbed the bananas, and they all got doused in ice cold water, and they didn't like it at all. And then when another one did it, they realized, oh, this is a predictable pattern. And so when the third one did it, they beat that baboon down. They beat it up, and they wouldn't let it go up. And then they took out a baboon, and they replaced it with a baboon that didn't know about the bananas and the ice cold water. And then that baboon, of course, saw the bananas and went for them, and then it got beaten down without even knowing why. And
mm.
eventually, every single baboon had been removed, and none of them knew the original reason why they were being beaten down, and yet they would beat down any baboon that would try without knowing why.
Wow.
And that actually
Good way to put it.
illustrates kind of what we have to be mindful of. Like sometimes we're just echo chambering what
Yeah.
other people are doing.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of things that are circulated around, and I wonder, like, where did this come from? Like,
Hmm.
is it as simple as, the intelligence agencies of the people that want to keep us separate and
Yeah.
in war and in enmity and hatred? Is it just so simple enough for them to create bullshit and circulate it
Yeah.
under the guise of truth
Yeah.
And then people will just jump on that and then, you know, be the baboon that doesn't even know where it actually came
Right.
from and just circulate it. So that's possible that that's going on.
Yeah.
And the Christ principle is interesting because we come from the collective.
Hmm.
We are the one. We are the one. So we are one big family, yes. But in order to get to the one, it's a very individual, very solo path
Yeah.
because other people can't help us through our inner journey.
Hmm.
They can guide, they could say something and everything, but really the choices that must be made solo.
Yes.
And there has to be a complete separation from others
Mm.
in that path, like the path of the Christ in the individual self. It's a very solo operation. And then, once that's done, then yeah, then you see everything is one and everything's the same. But in order for us to have that union with the divine, it is a solo operation.
Mm.
And so the herd mentality in that way becomes a detraction
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a little bit of a separation from that. And it's comfortable to be in the herd, right? Like it's not like you have you share like-mindedness.
Hmm.
But I noticed that in the herd mentality, if I bring something that's not readily accepted by the herd, then that seems like I'm creating friction
Mm.
and I'm not just agreeing, and I'm creating, dissonance or something.
Yeah.
And I think that that's another problem when there's a herd mentality that we have to be mindful of, we have to be aware of.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like the trap of trusting someone else's experience over your own, and forgetting that you have your own experience to go on. And if you haven't had that experience yet, well, maybe you should have it, and maybe it hasn't arrived yet. But like, no, and be okay with saying I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's like we've forgotten we have that ability anymore. It's like everyone's so quick to say no, I know, and if what I already claim to know is like challenged, we like decombust or something. Like we've
Yeah.
forgotten we have the ability to say I don't know, and that's okay. Like it's okay
Yeah.
not to know. It's
I think it's a
the
beautiful
best
thing. I
place you
think it
want to be.
actually it opens up the crown chakra to receive
Yes.
information. Like when we're
Yes.
too much in the know, the intellect, let's say,
Yeah.
then that would override the receptivity from the divine.
Right.
Rudolf Steiner states that the intellect is of the nature of the harmonic.
Mm.
And that, having intellect is a beautiful part of what it is to be human.
Yeah.
But when it's strictly intellect and it denies the spirit, then we have an harmonic problem.
Yes.
But when the intellect serves the Christ, serves the one, then it is a tool,
Mm.
just like anything else. It's not like you want to just completely divorce yourself from your intellect.
Hmm.
But the heart should be the guiding light in all of that. And when we're in balance towards the intellect, and then the heart is too dim, that's a problem.
Hmm.
And if we think we need to like completely like throw our intellect into the into the dump it, just dump
Right.
it and just be in the heart, then that's also, I mean, there
Unbalanced.
could be a certain bliss about that, but it lacks its ability to root into this world and to operate within the parameters of this world and bring goodness to the world.
Yes.
So
I
the
mean,
intellect can still serve.
it's like the
Yeah.
whole myth of killing the ego versus taming it, or like just like riding with it, like, and not letting it be in the driver's seat. Like,
Right, right. Or denying the ego
right.
as
Right.
that's not real. And
Right.
therefore that is the what Steiner calls the Luciferic path.
Mm.
To
Yes.
deny the ego, to deny the material, to deny the intellect is we're getting into the Luciferic,
Mm.
which is to go it denies the physical, it denies the earthly purpose that we're here for.
Mm.
And somebody would be very Luciferic, they could perceive the Jewish people from that lens and say, whoa, they're very intellectually developed, very held on to ancient beliefs, which is Aramonic,
Mhm.
very separated from the world and identifying with their own culture, which is Aramonic. This is Aramonic.
Mhm.
And that would be that because of the Luciferic imbalance, it would augment the negative view of that people, for
Mhm.
example. Whereas a person who's in the Christ would see the beauty in the strength of that, and then also with compassion see the problem there as well. So a more balanced view again. Yeah. So I mean, I think all of this is so incredible, and I have great hope in my heart.
Yeah.
Even though once in a while I'll look at the world and I'll go, how on earth are we ever gonna get
For
our
goodness
act
sakes.
together?
I hear you.
But I do believe that we will. I do believe we will. I do believe it's in the destiny. I do believe that we're gonna see an age of peace. And the
I agree.
Promethean action, again, is part of the view of how to recognize what's going on. Because even the people like, even around Trump,
Yeah.
Trump came into office twice, and the second time, gosh, it was such a relief. The relief of what could have possibly happened in America if Trump didn't win. Like that was just so bad if that had happened. It would have been so bad. Like that
Yeah.
that there was relief in Trump taking office, and then there was all these promises. But since then, people don't understand what's going on. And I have to confess, I don't understand why there isn't more disclosure.
Hmm.
It could be part of Trump's mystique, the art of the deal. You keep your enemies guessing. You
Right.
keep your opponents guessing. That's part of the deal. Maybe that's it. But I do think that if you look at the model that Promethean action paints, it does make a lot of sense. And it basically unifies a lot of different conspiracy theories under that canopy. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
Um, would it be a good time to take a break?
Yeah,
Or
sure. Let's take a break. That's a great time, actually. Thank you.
okay.
It feels like a
Yeah.
nice, ending of that chapter. Sure.
Yes. Yes. In the second part, I'd like to get into like Vis Dialogue and more of your practice and
Sure.
your journey of getting there and how you work with
Beliefs and
clients. Yes.
healing.
Yes. The
I'd be happy to. All right,
correlation versus
let's
causation. Yeah.
yeah, let's take a break and let's come back in like 5 minutes. Is that good for you
Sounds good.
guys?
Perfect.
What?
So we're back. I just wanted to dive a little bit into your holistic practice, the Vis Dialogue, kind of your approach to mental illness, um, correlation versus causation, and kind of what you've built your life work around, and also your book.
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, so as I had told you about like having myasthenia gravis,
Hmm.
like I was diagnosed with that personally, a rare autoimmune disease. I specialized in my practice largely around that, like maybe 70% of my cases over 20 years. And in the last 6 years, just working with anybody with anything, basically, and not only specializing. So the idea is that the body is and alchemy actually recognizes this too. It's a patience versus an actins. This is Latin for the active and the passive.
Mm.
The body is a passive vessel, and we also live in active vessels. The mind is active, so we have will, and our will of our mind could make choices. But the body doesn't make choices. It responds to the mind. If the mind is in harmony with nature, God's nature, true nature, nature of the Christ, then the body is supplied a healthy energy and will be in a state of harmony. But if the person is misaligned with their true nature, with God's nature, they will that will imprint itself. It'll start in the mind and create a corruption around which an emotional field will be felt that mirrors that falseness, and then the vital body will become corrupted, or off balance or toxic or blocked. And then that blockage, imbalance, toxicity will imprint itself into the body as the final stage of crystallization of the misthought.
Mm-hmm.
So most chronic problems that we have start with a misthought,
Mm.
because in the Hermetic tradition, basically it says everything is mind. We live in a mental universe,
Mm-hmm.
and Buddha also said everything is mind.
Mm.
Now, just a little addendum, a little nod towards the beingness of God that is, was, and will always be. That is not mind per se. It does have mind, but is not strictly the mental mind that we consider. It is pure consciousness, which is beyond mind, because
Mm.
mind still is a thing. You
Right.
think thoughts with the mind. It's an object that we inhabit, like a body, like a clothing. We adopt that mind over the beingness. But everything that is manifest in the world is made up of mind.
Mm.
So when we have this misthought, then that can translate into problems in the body. Yeah, chronic issues.
So, when a new client comes to you and say they're going through a crisis, whether it's mental or physical ailment, let's
Yeah.
say mental to start with, and they're on all these medications, and they're like, this just isn't working out. I'm not feeling like myself. Um, where do you start with someone in that situation, and how do you go about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I start even before we start together with them understanding how I work.
Yeah.
And also, they have to understand, first of all, I don't work with people who are still going to their conventional doctors and really heeding their advice.
Hmm.
And it's not just because I have any bias against that. It's because in order for me to do my work well with someone, they need to commit to the principles of healing and empowerment, of recognizing how their thoughts are impacting their body. So if they're also going to their doctor at the same time, it just flies in the face of that.
Right.
It's like
Completely.
it's like sticking a caboose on both ends of a train and expecting it to, like, or an engine compartment. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to go one way. Oh no, we're
Right.
trying to go out. It's like Frodo and Samwise Gamgee, and they're both rowing in opposite directions.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Now, and that's not to say that I don't once, sometimes, rarely, but sometimes I will recommend that a patient go to the emergency,
Hmm.
because the inflammation or the manifestation of their symptoms is so strong that there's no room to do the deeper work, that it's such an acute level that they don't have the wherewithal to do the subtle yet powerful medicine that I do with them. So sometimes the best option is to suppress symptoms, but
Right.
not rarely. It's rarely the case, at least in my situation. In some parts of the world, it would be more common that you might have to do that just because of the severity of illness, poverty, malnutrition, and total disconnect from the self.
Right.
But generally speaking, I get people from America, from Canada, and I used to work more with people overseas, and they're people that are interested in health, so they read
Hmm.
and they know how to take care of themselves to a degree. So they're not coming in with like all those very basic problems.
Right.
They're coming in with, I have an issue that I've tried X, Y, and Z to do, and I don't know how to help myself. Nothing has worked. I've tried everything. So when people say they've tried everything, usually what they're saying is I've tried all of the external um, protocols except look at the root cause in my mind. That's
Right.
that's what I hear them say. So they sit down. Okay, so now we've gone past the first phase. They want this work. And if, if they say I'm on drugs, but I want to come off of them, then I'll say, okay, I'll work with you. Although that could be a very slippery slope in
Right.
some cases. Very hard to come off some drugs. It's
100%.
very hard to come off some drugs, and it's very hard to get rid of entities that have gotten in. It's better
Mm,
to not go on them in the first time, and it's better to say no to the entities before they enter.
mm,
It's the same with any chronic illness. It's the same with a thought,
yeah.
or somebody calls you a name. Like you're such an asshole. And like you if you accept that, it's harder to get that dark energy out
Hmm.
than if you just like defend, defend it and don't let it come in from the get-go.
Mm,
So, okay, so we're back to the person. Let's say, just for simplicity's sake, let's say they're not on all kinds of drugs because when people are on all kinds of drugs, then the approach is different. It involves, taking steps and then trying to get them weaned off of their drugs
hmm.
because drugs are like a straitjacket to the vital force.
Mm,
It locks the body in place so it's not all like inflamed and like reacting, although different parts can get inflamed from the drugs. But let's say at the symptom level, let's say somebody has migraine headaches, or they have a stomach ulcer, or they're constipated or whatever. So when we take the drug to address those symptoms at the symptom itself, it straitjackets the symptoms like this
mm,
and they stop manifesting. But what happened is that those symptoms are there as a reflection for the higher level problem.
yeah.
So the higher level problem is creating a message, and it's trickling down through the different bodies that we inhabit, and finally it's settling as symptoms,
Hmm.
mental, emotional, or physical.
Hmm.
So the drug, what it does is it suppresses the expression. It's literally like putting duct tape over somebody who's angry and trying to tell you something so that you don't hear what they're saying. What happens to that anger?
Does it go away? It's still there.
It it gets
It
it gets
grows.
worse.
Yeah, it grows
It's gonna
bigger.
come out more like instead of just yelling or expressing, now they're gonna start kicking and scratching and maybe biting.
Mm,
And if you tie up their hands and their feet, if they get free, they're gonna stab you or shoot you with a gun. It just escalates.
yes.
So the more we suppress the expression of the symptoms in the body, the more the symptoms manifest at a deeper and more serious level.
Mm,
And that's just a principle of reality. So when people are on a lot of drugs, they could be suffering from a symptom that's very troubling for them.
mm,
And so when it goes away, they're very happy that it goes away. And they might be very out of touch with what it's actually doing to them on a deeper level because
100%.
they're celebrating the disappearance of the thing that was very problematic for them. And interestingly, usually chronic illness will impact people in a way that's very significant for them because it's a reflection of their belief system, and their body is getting compromised in the exact way that will bother them and upset them to make them look at what that's about.
Yeah.
The symptom is a messenger.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful
100%.
messenger. Yeah. So drugs are designed to remove symptoms at the material. When those material symptoms can threaten a person's life, the drug can save the life. That's great. But when it's chronic and the person has room to work with healing, it's not so great.
Right.
It's suppressive, and it's the engine compartment on the end of the train
Mm,
going in the wrong direction. It's pulling you away from health.
right.
Yeah.
And I guess how do you help people work through or translate that message more clearly if they're struggling to identify like what is this trying to teach me or show me, and how I can work through it in the best way possible.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. The Vis dialogue reveals that for the person.
Hmm.
You know, advice, I don't give advice in the Vis dialogue. I allow the person to recognize their problems and see it full on. I will give feedback, this is
Right.
what you said and this is what you're saying, and then I will do that to bring clarity, but really the person will recognize the problem, and if it's a good dialogue, a good Vis dialogue, they'll be able to trace it back up to where we started. We started with the migraines or the constipation or the insomnia or anxiety. And we got down to this belief system about the person. So now they can see, ah, that problem that I started with is actually a manifestation of this false belief.
Mm.
I'm not good enough, or I'll never XYZ, or I'm only okay if, I'm rich, I'm
Mm.
respected, I I have a partner. Like these are the different conditionalities that a person gets attached to that they then need to become manifest, or else they feel like all hell's going to break loose. So then they go into control, they go into exhaustion, trying to make that real. So when the person recognizes the belief and they see that it's not serving them because it's at the cause of their illness and they're struggling, then usually that's enough to get them to stop
Yeah.
wanting to believe that and release that, especially when they have the spontaneous healing like during this session, which happens often enough. And also what can occur quite often is that the person sees the truth, they get a dose of reality. They
Hmm.
they they go with me through the questions, and then they see, I never realized that I was believing that about myself, but it makes total sense that that's what's happening under this in this subconscious realm. Then they realize it, they have an improvement, but they go back in their life and they slip back into their patterns and their habits.
Mm.
That's common for people because of relationships, because of pressures, because
Like
of
stressors.
habitual, yeah, stressors, habitual patterns, the habit can make them go back, and then they forget. They completely forget,
Mm.
which is funny because let's say I said to you a weird cryptic message like the red tree has a yellow apple. Okay, I just made that up right now.
Okay.
And you could write it down.
Hmm.
You're allowed to write it down. You're allowed to sit there and memorize it. And I said, what was the cryptic message? You could forget, but if you knew that that cryptic message was the source of your liberation,
Mm.
you would you would put your whole heart and soul into memorizing that message.
Yes.
The red tree has a yellow apple. The red tree has the red. Okay, yeah, I got it. I got it. But people don't do that with their false beliefs.
Hmm.
There's a feeble-mindedness in our society. Feeble-mindedness is associated with the harmonic impulse.
Mm.
People don't necessarily want to have to do the hard work. Mental work, discipline is difficult,
Yeah.
and they would rather take something
Right.
or not have to
Shortcuts.
think.
Right.
So they'll slip back into complete forgetting, such that they don't even remember that moment of like, whoa, with the light, the beams of light are coming through the stained glass window right on top of them.
Right.
They'll totally forget. So then another session will constitute another dose of the truth for them. And some people need multiple doses in order till it finally sticks.
Mm. Well
And
said.
and really the results can be anywhere from one session is good, you're good. All right, see you later. Nice to meet you. To many, many years of a bloody like a bloody battle of a war of attrition on their like false belief systems.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Completely resonates. And I think it's just, yeah, coming to that center point, that, we are already whole and complete. And like, just not forgetting that, like holding on to that, like you were saying about the apple tree with the yellow apple, the red tree with the yellow apple, like remembering that, and staying true to that remembrance of, like, I don't need something external to heal me. I need to look within. I need to go within and keep that spark alive.
Yep. Yep. So the principle, I like this work a lot too because it really unifies with my yogic initiations and my yogic practice and the alchemy and also what we talked about, the divine being all that there was, pure beingness. So the statement of the pure being is I am. It's just I am.
Yes.
There's nothing else. And in that I am is the infinite unfoldment of creation and joy and ecstasy and love and all the goodness, the good things of the creator. It's as simply a statement of pure consciousness, I am. So when we append something after that, that is a condition upon which we think we need in order to be happy, we have divorced ourselves from the pure okayness of the I am.
Mm.
Because each of us, as you said, we're already whole. That's the truth right there. That's the truth.
Uh-huh.
We are already whole. We're already there because we never left. And we have everything that we need to be okay. I don't mean like be the master of the universe or to be thriving in life. I just mean okay. And okay equals at peace. I'm
Mm.
okay. There's a peace.
Yes.
So anything that we append to the I am statement becomes a spell for the
Yeah.
creation of falsehood.
Right.
I am only okay if, or I am not good enough.
Mm.
That's the most common belief system. I am not enough. I am not worthy. So I am not. Imagine you ever see Star Trek where James Kirk has to get into the reactor and put it back together and he gets basically overexposed to the radiation of the nuclear reactor in the USS Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
So the I am is our nuclear reactor.
Mm.
And anything that's close to it is going to radiate out. If we put conditions on it, then that will just radiate out into our whole life.
Mm.
And in the way it works is that the words closest to the core have the biggest influence. And it's interesting because I've seen this in my patients, I've seen this in myself. I am core, true,
Hmm.
not good enough. Okay. So each one of these, I am not. That's a statement of unbeing. It's the exact opposite of to be.
Mm.
Shakespeare asks the question, is it to be or not to be? I am not good enough actually has a fundamental principle of I am not.
Mm.
It's not possible, but we can believe that. And the person who says I am not has this sort of essential quality to them that is unexisting. They feel like they don't exist. They don't have the right to exist. They don't have a space. They don't have a voice. There's all different aspects of this.
Mm.
I am not good. I'm not good,
Mm.
meaning I'm bad.
Mm.
That's another very core belief from it. So not only am I not, but I'm actually bad. And that's just completely wrong. Like,
Right.
I mean, a person can become wicked and they can act bad, but ultimately in their true core, they're still good.
Right.
I mean, if somebody is so wicked, then the corruption is so deep, then maybe even that gets messed up.
Hmm.
But God forgives, and ultimately they could return to that place and
Yes.
They could. Forgiveness is a thing. It's a thing. And then enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. And therefore I have to do something more
Hmm.
than I am. So my am is not enough. It's I need more. So that creates a split from the okayness and a constant externalizing effort to constantly be trying to compensate for feeling not enough. So common in America, so common.
Yeah.
We're raised with these fundamental beliefs.
Yeah.
Our parents are wounded and then they wound us in turn from their wound. It's natural. I don't want to say natural is not the best word, but it happens, you know. And then we carry that belief.
Yeah.
So what if instead of having a belief I'm not good enough, you just release anytime you recognize the thought, oh, there, I just had that thought. So we have to kind of like become mindful of our thoughts.
Hmm.
I recommend people create a little app of mindfulness in the back of their mind and just spot what you're thinking. And just be aware of your thoughts in every moment. Don't go crazy with scrutinizing everything. A little bit of attention just to be monitoring what you're thinking and what thoughts are happening. So when you detect that I am not good enough thing happening, you go, ah, no, 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 no. You stop it in its tracks.
Hmm.
And then over time, it becomes actually you could see that it's false with your conscious mind and your subconscious. And then you clear it, and then you get to be closer and closer to the I am, which is the living God inside of the flesh that you are.
Yeah. So beautifully said, brother.
Thanks, man. Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate that.
And do you work with obviously it kind of goes against the whole theory of it, but like certain herbs or plant medicine at all? I know, Trump just had that recent executive order with Rogan behind him, like pushing ibogaine treatments for PTSD.
Yeah.
Um, what is your opinion on where it's all going with the merging of psychology and plant medicine emerging?
Yeah. So herbal medicine, I'm a naturopathic doctor. I'm trained in herbal medicine. I love herbs. I
Hmm.
don't give them very often because they tend to operate at the pharmacological level, at the material level. And in some situations that's necessary and it's good, like if you want to detox or you want to soothe an ulcer with like mucilaginous herb or something. There's some situations when the herb is nicely indicated, but I'm a big fan of homeopathy. I just love homeopathy,
Yeah.
and I've seen the power over and over and over again. And because it works at the vital level,
Hmm.
it's a quantum level more powerful than the herbal.
Hmm.
Um, so herbal medicine, yes. In terms of yes, and right, you use it, enjoy the herbs. They're beautiful, they're nutritional. You could drink them as teas, you can use them as salves. Like when my kids get bit by they get stung by a bee or a wasp, we'll grab some plantain and chew it up and put it on the sting to draw out the venom.
Mm.
So there's that. In terms of medicines like psychedelics or medicinal plants that are psychoactive, I think that that's a valid path. I think it's not without its problems.
Hmm.
I think it's nice to have your mind blown open to possibilities.
Mm.
And it's really good because you could have a lot revealed in a session, which is very nourishing for the evolution. So, in that regard, I absolutely embrace it. It's painful. It's painful working with medicines. There's no doubt about it. It's not a walk in the park, and it shouldn't be a walk in the park. It should be confronting the darkness of the ego, and then
Yeah.
also recognizing the true bliss. So not just darkness
Right.
of the ego.
Right.
It's like you might as well flagellate yourself while you're doing your psychedelic. Um, but then to recognize that who we are is our true nature and the Christ is a pure being
Mm,
that there's a certain toxifying nature of whatever plant you're taking. So
right.
what, even if these amazing plants like ayahuasca
Mm-hmm.
and well, I mean, let's say psilocybin,
Right.
these plants are could be very revealing stuff, but they bring their darkness into the fold, and they leave a residue which is not human.
Mm,
So just be mindful of that, right? Because it's
right.
not human. And the human is the center of creation and is synonymous with the Christ.
Mm,
The human being, the human Aquarian, is the child of God, and that is synonymous with the Christ.
mm,
It just like the sun and gold and the lion all resonate in alchemy. Well,
mm-hmm.
the human being resonates with the Christ, which resonates with the um, the human being in the vision of Ezekiel and John's book of Revelation.
Mm,
And so that's higher than the medicine that you're actually taking.
right.
So we're taking it as a tool. It's
Right.
not
The
it's
end all
not
be
up
all.
there
Right.
pulling us up. It's actually opening us up and holding us down at the same time a little bit inside
Mm,
of its reality.
right.
And everything in this world, everything has a positive side and a negative side. Everything.
100%.
As a good thing and a quote unquote bad thing are zodiac signs, like,
Yeah,
Right.
right?
detrimental. Mm-hmm.
Every zodiac sign has its positive qualities and its
And its
negative
Yep.
qualities.
detriment.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. So, what was the inspiration or uh, some of your greatest influences? I know Steiner comes up a lot for you, and how have you kind of integrated that into your practice and I guess other influences as well? I think you brought up that author, Barbara, I forget her name early on.
Barbara Brennan. Yeah.
Yes. Um, if you just want to go into kind of the great influences on your work from other mentors throughout your path.
Yeah, for sure. Rudolf Steiner is the most influential in the last while. The book, The Only Planet of Choice, which is transceived by Phyllis Schlemmer, was hugely influential for me. uh, Count of Saint Germain,
Mm,
Nikola Tesla, John Keeley. I mean, these guys, I just love that. Like, I have a deep love and admiration for them, and they've guided me so much. I really appreciate the work of Dale Pond, who's a sympathetic vibratory physics.
I know Dale.
You
Shout
know
out
Dale
to
Pond?
Dale. Yes, he's
nice.
great.
Yeah, I love Dale. He's helped me a lot. He's given us a lot in his work on SVP, sympathetic vibratory physics, and
Mm,
in kind of like trying to decipher Keely's work from like the middle of the 19th century. Because Keely was like a mad genius, but he would use terms that we understand differently today in his own way, or even then, like musical terms. He just used them in a way which was probably necessary for him in order to explain things, but it becomes hard to understand what he was talking about because he's so like his intelligence was so advanced. So I
mm,
really appreciate Dale Pond, Barbara Brennan, absolutely, Phyllis Schlemmer. Uh, Gosh, a lot of homeopaths, Samuel Hahnemann. I
mm,
could name a lot of my teachers, Andre Sain, Louis Klein. Just I could sit here praising all the homeopaths I've learned from. And yeah, I mean the teachers in alchemy that I've had as well.
mm.
Um, Paracelsus.
Yeah.
I love Paracelsus.
Yeah.
I I actually learned a lot from the forums the alchemy forums,
Yep.
because I know you may have remembered from my talk, like for so many years, I just read book after book. I was fascinated by what I was reading, and I had no understanding of anything. It
Mm,
just sounded so cool. It appealed to me deeply at a soul level, but I
yeah.
didn't understand. And then slowly, slowly, I've been, thanks to a lot of very, very intelligent people on the forums, the alchemy forums, I've been able to come to some more understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I, it's yeah. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, what are some of your daily practices you recommend to your patients as far as like keeping that centeredness and that remembering that will last, whether it's prayer, or meditation, or do you have any things you typically recommend?
I typically recommend a three-step homework, which
Mhm.
is very simple and it contains very good principles that help to integrate. So the three-step homework is step one, recognize the process of your issue when it's happening.
Mm.
And I always ask them, can you do that? So in other words, let's say I have this belief like I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
So maybe I realize that somebody said something mean to me and it triggered me to feel, oh, I'm not good enough. And then I start trying to like win them back by obsequious behavior, or I start trying to like overcompensate by doing really nice things around the house, and then I go, oh, I'm doing that again. I'm
Mm.
feeling I'm not good enough. Okay, so that's step one. Recognize it. Just recognize. Hey, I know you. I know you not good enough pattern. Hello. I've known you for a long time. That's it. Step one is easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's simple.
Mhm.
Step two is do not engage.
Mhm.
And there's two ways that we can engage. One is by literally believing it and saddling it up and riding it like a horse. Like this is true and I'm doing it. Don't do that. Go back to step one.
Mm.
Just observe it happening. I really want to feel like I'm not good enough. It's really happening right now. Like it's calling me. It's like, come, be with us. You know you want to be in your dark side of feeling bad about yourself. Come,
Mm.
to Mordor we will take you. It's like the orc. It's like the Black Riders
I see.
calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're calling Frodo, right? When he has the ring. So don't just go back into observation. Don't fight it. That's another way of engaging with it. So don't do it, and also don't fight it.
Mm.
Stupid. I hate this shit, because then you're adding energy to it and that augments it. It keeps it in place. So basically, the idea is just to go into observation and don't feed it.
Mm.
And that's it. Those two is basically all you need. But it is a three-step homework process. So you might be wondering, well, what's step three?
Mhm.
Step three is optional. It is that when the time is right, you'll know because you'll see through it. It'll be time to let it go. And when that time comes, excuse yourself and go to the bathroom if you're with company, or just carve out some time for yourself and just keep letting it go. Just let it slough off completely. Because there will be a moment in time when that core belief, the thing that's been with us for our whole lives, will be ready to go, and you really want to maximize you can and just really just see it going, because you're in a place of clarity. Maybe Jupiter is like in your midheaven and like the moon is conjunct your natal sun. I don't know, like there's some perfect factor there. Maybe you had the perfect soup that night and you're just all relaxed and you see through the belief. Let it go, but don't try to let it go during step two. Let it go when you're ready for it.
Mm.
That's the subtle difference. So that's a three-step homework that I recommend
Yeah.
for my patients to do. And then just to be, it's just a mindfulness practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So beautiful, man. And that was really helpful. I was just taking myself through that process as you were speaking it, and yeah, very practical and applicable.
It's practical and it's doable, and it also avoids some of the pitfalls that we might do by trying to strong arm the thing out, or
Mm.
suppress it, or run from it, or hate on it.
Right.
Just stay in step one. There you are. I know you. I know you.
Yeah.
It doesn't like to be seen.
Hmm.
Any form of darkness, anything that is not true, not that's illusion, doesn't like to be looked at.
Mm.
Because when you look at what's an illusion, it will dissolve. Ramana Maharshi actually he has a whole basis for dissolving the false ego is just like, well, just observe your sense of self, your little self. Just observe, like, who do you think you are in this moment? Just, okay, I'm going to do it too now. All right, there, I just got a sense of myself as an object that I'm observing. Just look at that. If you hold that long enough, it's gonna go like this and move to the side. And through it will be experienced your real self, our real self, the true I am.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah. So it's like fungus. Fungus doesn't like to be exposed to the light. It
Mm,
thrives in darkness.
mm,
And our beliefs don't like, the wounded self, the entity, the dark force doesn't like to be seen. It likes to operate behind the scenes, hidden. So looking at things is helpful. It's
yeah.
helpful to dissolve them.
It reminds me of, Alan Watts would talk a lot about the watcher and, just being the observer and really resonate.
Yeah.
I think it was Alex Zach's pod you guys did. You were discussing, the polar nature of bipolar and other mental illnesses where you can clearly see the polar nature manifesting. If you don't mind speaking on that a little bit and just kind of giving us the basis of that.
Well, it's quite obvious in bipolar. It's literally defined
Right.
around what that looks like. But um, borderline personality is very polarized as well. With bipolar, a person there's some kind of process by which they have judged as wrong inside of them, and they become luciferic. That's
Mm,
the bipolar phase. The manic phase is luciferic, where they're out of their body. They think they could do anything. They're omnipotent. They have loads of energy. They don't have to eat. They don't have to sleep. And it's a response of not integrating something inside of them, which is of the aramonic. And it might be something that they don't like about themselves. It might be
mm,
a limitation. It
mm,
might be a lack of energy.
mm,
And so that they feel the person has made a choice, they feel like they have to divorce themselves from something that's integral in their being.
mm,
So to identify what that judgment is, like in most of the cases of bipolar that I've worked with, you can see what they're judging something about themselves, and they believe they have to come out of themselves in order to do what they want to do, feel free, for example. They
mm,
feel encumbered by some aspect of themselves or that something's wrong with them. And so they literally will separate from themselves and go up into the upper chakras. And in that place, they're divorced from their body. It's a luciferic problem in the manic phase. But then that burns itself out, right? And then they crash.
mhm,
And when they're crashed, then they're faced fully in the depression phase where they feel stuck because they're no longer escaping into the bliss of the non-problem. They're stuck in the problem.
mm.
So working with somebody that's like that, you have to work with them when they're in the problem, not when
Right,
they're in the luciferic phase, because then they have no problem.
right, right.
Yeah.
It's hard to even reach them in that stage, I would
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah.
It's hard to reach them, but they can be really helped by recognizing what they haven't integrated into themselves. It could be their sexuality.
Mm,
If they feel aroused and they don't know what to deal with it, there's a judgment there. It's just some split.
yeah.
And the split is also big in like a borderline personality disorder. The person is split between things that they don't like, something they don't like about themselves, and then, they'll split. It's not the same as multiple personality disorder where literally they develop different personalities that have whole different like cascades of
Yeah.
systems and
Different
thoughts and
characters.
Yeah, they're split. Part of them is they're split away from the other part. So yeah, yeah. So there's that.
It's fascinating. I just love your approach, man, and it's so refreshing to the allopathy and what's out there. I'm just so grateful that someone like you is out there, with such a different holistic view of, how we can just be healthy and live fuller lives. And
Yeah.
I can
Thank
just
you.
imagine the countless number of people you've helped through on their path and their journeys just back to
Thank,
themselves.
thank you. My biggest love and passion is to work with someone who is not only wanting to resolve an illness, but who is wanting to evolve themselves in through that process.
Yeah.
And by evolve, like ultimately the goal is to marry the godly nature with the physical nature. And I
Mm.
think that's for each of us to become a Christ child.
Yeah.
And so that's really my passion is like somebody who's like, all right. So they don't say, hey, I have myasthenia gravis. They don't, I mean, they can. There's nothing wrong with that. They don't say, hey, I have insomnia or I have anxiety and help me with that. They say, hey, I'm struggling to embody my Christ nature. And I'll say, okay, tell me about it. And let's identify what you're actually holding on to, which is false,
Mm.
so that you can embody that.
Mm.
Right. And it could be multiple factors, but usually there's like a big one. So there's multiple little ones and maybe there's moderate ones, but then there's like the chief problem of a person. And when they can identify and resolve the chief problem, that's hugely liberating.
Mm.
The false story around the I am is resolved. And then the I am naturally can express itself a lot easier in that person. Just naturally without effort because it is
Mm.
like the fundamental nature of who we are is without our effort.
Yes.
That's an amazing realization that it's a surrender rather than a doing.
Right.
You
Mm.
don't have to do anything.
Yes. It's like getting out of the way.
Yeah, it's getting out of the way. Exactly.
It was
Exactly.
it was with us all along. We just, it's like we in the Four Agreements Toltec tradition, it's like we cloud the mirror. We just have to clean our mirror and
Yeah, that's right.
there we are.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah, I just wanted to end on, I guess, where the listeners can find you if they want to reach out for a session or to work with you. Um, where would you
Sure.
direct them?
Sure. Okay, so to work with me, so I do train people in the Vis Dialogue.
Mm.
And I'll give one website where you could both contact me around the training and or work with me personally in my health program, or you could work with Q. Q is the extension of me app where it's like you can access it anytime, and it's designed to do what I do
Mm.
to start with a complaint, anxiety, depression, low back pain, name it. And then you just get asked questions and you self-inquire to identify the false belief that's underneath that.
Mm.
And so you could also do that. So there's three options here: training, working with me one-on-one, or working with Q. So Q is at q.questionsheal.com. That's the
Mm.
website. Working with me is dr.moshe, M-O-S-H-E.com. And you could also reach the training through that website. And what's interesting about the training is that it includes working with me one-on-one as well on your own evolutionary path.
Mm.
Because I do 6 sessions with people that take my program, my training program, which is getting certified in the Vis Dialogue. And you'll get 6 sessions, and those 6 sessions, usually at a certain point, could be anywhere between, well, 1 to 6, but usually it's around 4, 5, 6. the person will have a breakthrough in their own core thing. You remember I was talking about the core thing, and there's all these
Yeah.
little things. There's always these little things and these middle things. But the core thing is the thing that we have to have some handle on, some evolution in, some resolving in order to be able to do the Vis dialogue as the practitioner.
Mhm.
So upon one's journey, one becomes Vis dialogue ready.
Mhm.
Before that, you could have all the knowledge in the world around how to do it, the nuts and bolts, the ins and outs of it, and you won't be able to help somebody until that core that you carry of your false I am is understood and resolved and not at play during the dialogue.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful, brother. Well, thank you so much for this amazing, great conversation we've had, man. Can't thank you enough. It was a pleasure meeting you at Elementals. I was catching myself like finishing your sentences when you were giving that talk, man, and it just resonated such on a deep level. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, man, and hope to
My
do this
pleasure
again in the
too.
future.
I'm very grateful to both of you. Thank you so much for allowing me to have the platform to communicate. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Like, beautiful space. And I just pray that it can get out and help people find balance of certain, some of the elements that we talked about and
Yeah.
understand that their core is
Mhm.
that I am. I am
Love it.
that I am. And
Yeah,
yeah, just wonderful stuff. It's so nice to have this connection. Really is.
definitely. Well, I just want to thank you all for listening out there. I hope you gained something from this conversation. I send you all peace and love, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of the week. Thanks for listening.